My name is Mike Sabella. I am a family physician. I'm a primary care physician from a town called Salem, Ohio. People from Ohio? Anyone? Anyone? Oh, there you go. One. There's always one. Thank you. So I'm in a group practice. And I'm with, I'm with 4 other family docs, small town America. Love it. But my social media story starts way in the dark ages, before Twitter and Facebook. Yes, there was. So internet before Twitter and Facebook. And back then I was curious about blogs because that was the majority platform at that time. And what I was curious about was I was curious to see, are physicians using blogs? Were physicians using blogs, and what were they doing? And so I did a search, and I found that yes, physicians were telling stories on social media. And back at that time, this is 2005, 2006, and the culture back then in physician social media circles was to be an anonymous blogger. So they had names like Brett Doc and Dr. Lee, a pediatrician. And so I asked myself 2 questions. 1, do I have a story to tell? And 2, what kind of cool, buzzworthy name could I find to try to do that? So I went to Blogger, and I said, is Dr. Anonymous taken? So it wasn't taken, so that started Dr. Anonymous blog in 2006. Now, what did I talk about? I talked about patients, which I don't recommend now, but that was the culture back then, And what did I want to do with my blog? What is the story that I wanted to tell? I wanted to bring readers into the exam room with me to show them how it was to take care of patients in this broken healthcare system. So I talked about insurance companies, I talked about attorneys, I talked about patients, which again, don't do now. But it was the Wild West back then, physicians were writing about anything, and then they started getting in trouble, and then they stopped doing that. So I didn't get in trouble. I learned from them, and it's an interesting story how I went from Dr. Anonymous to me, kind of a full circle type of thing, and that story is beyond the scope of this. But if you want to find me later, I'll say that story. So what I want to share with my piece here is why physicians and providers, because that is the voice that I bring to this panel, why physicians and providers should use social media now. And number 1 is patient education. And when I tell people right up front, I do not use social media to do any kind of clinical work. I don't email patients, I don't text patients, I don't private message, I don't do Facebook, none of that type of stuff, okay? And that question came up this morning, and there's some real concerns and limitations by doing that. A lot of docs don't have the time to do that. They're angry enough with their electronic medical record, and you want me to do this Facebook thing? So I get that. Patient privacy, sure. Don't want to be talking about, patient information on the internet. Liability, if I text something, is that going to have somebody, sue me? A concern. So when I talk to physician groups, and I've been, talking to physician groups over the past few years, I give them that. Those are valid concerns. But then I kind of flip things around and say, this is a great opportunity for the physician social media community to do patient education. Because in the past, the physician social media community never had a good way to respond to what was happening in the news. In case a celebrity was saying something, there was nothing out there for physicians to say, this is the real deal. This is the research that we have. This is the data that we have. What they're saying on television, what the celebrity is saying is false. And more than a few physician social media superstars now started their career because of that. Kevin MD, Kevin Foe, he's an internal medicine physician up in the Northeast. He started this blog because his office got phone calls almost every morning because there was a medical news story at the Today Show at 7 o'clock. And a drug got pulled. And he would get phone calls at his office asking about that. So what he would do is he would just write up a blog post and say, go to the website, this is how I feel about it. So, and people may know Dr. Wendy Sue Swanson. pediatrician at Seattle Children's, Seattle Mama Doc on Twitter. And back when she started, was really when the whole alleged autism vaccines, thing was going on. And she felt passionate enough to talk about it on her blog and saying, this is the data that we have. And what you're hearing is hype. And what was happening is, and what you'll hear from the panelists here, stories are a powerful thing. And even if it's stories about inaccurate information, it is still compelling. So what she did was, she flipped it around. And she said, this is what we have, this is the stories. I, immunize my children. I talk to parents in my clinic about this. So she kind of does that. So that's kind of, patient education is very, very important now. How many people have heard of Khan Academy? Huge in the education world. If you don't know what it is, and my wife's an educator, and it is where students now, they go to the web to learn about the lesson. They learn the content. They go to the classroom to ask questions. And they call that, kind of flipping the classroom. And a lot of people think that they should do that in medicine as well, medical education, flipping the exam room, where, they come and see me and they say, Dr. Sabella, I want to get my flu shot. It causes the flu. And then I'm like, But then I go, well, okay, here's a short story. No. But here is a great YouTube video from the Centers of Disease Control, CDC.gov, which works a lot better than healthcare.gov. Well, hashtag awkward. So go watch that about the flu shot, and when you come back, talk about it, bring your questions, and we can do that. So rather than me kind of rattle off, when I'm an hour behind, I can say, here's the short answer, go here and get the long answer, come back and talk about it. The second reason why I think physicians should use social media is advocacy and reputation management. Now, what does that mean? When I talk to my family physician colleagues, what I tell them is that for a long time, we as family physicians and primary care physicians, we have let other people tell the family medicine story, and it's the wrong story. And it's all the stuff that you see in the media. They're like, oh, primary care, they're the gatekeeper, or they keep me from the real doctors who are the surgeons, and this and that. And we've let people do that to ourselves, our reputation. So what I go and tell them, we have to be proactive as a specialty and say, I love being a family doctor. And I think that, we have some of the solutions, health policy solutions at the State House or in Washington, about how we can fix this broken healthcare system. And that's what I tell my colleagues. It's kind of our little physician online community. And we use FM Revolution, Family Medicine Revolution. We were at a meeting once and we were like, yeah, that sounds great, we'll do that. And so what do we do with that hashtag? So we talk about hot topics. We talk about research. When we talk about, there was this great study on this model called Patient-Centered Medical Home, which we think is a great model for patient care. We're like, oh great, I didn't hear about that study, so we just retweet it. Or it's just a place where we go to say, I love being a family doc. I love going there and to get recharged. I read tweets like, I love when there are 3 generations of people in my exam room where I can talk about their health issues. I love doing that. I love taking care of my geriatric patients. So that is our online community that we have. So reputation management, so I flip that on all of you. Are you writing your own social media story out there? Or are other people defining you? What I tell docs when I talk to them is, what are they saying about you? When I go to medical meetings, I go, have you Googled your name? Do you know what people are saying? And they're like, oh yeah. Like, really? Because usually the first link is not their, Physician of the Year award. It is a physician rating site, which a lot of docs don't know about. So they're very shocked with that. So what is your social media reputation? What are people saying about you? Or are you, driving that yourself? Are you being proactive about what yourself and what your organization is all about. And I talk to high school students and college students too. It affects them as well. When they're interviewing for college, when they're interviewing for their job. I sit on the credentials committee for our hospital, where we interview new doctors who want to come on staff. And the first thing that we do, before we open up their application, is we Google and we Facebook them. And we say, is this something that they want to be a part of our hospital? So reputation, is a huge thing, not only from a personal standpoint, also from a professional standpoint. Even for hospitals and clinics, there's rating sites for you as well, and you have to know about that out there. So the third reason I use social media is for meetings. It's for fun. Because usually when I go to physician meetings, that is the only time I can kind of focus them in and say, this is what social media is about. And I'm that guy. I'm that guy at physician meetings that goes and signs up people to do social media. And why do they do that? Well, at the meeting, I say, well, you can take notes. That's some people take notes, and you can share that with people at home. But probably the most important, most powerful thing that I share with my colleagues is that, everybody goes to these great meetings. They're like, well, I wish I could have been there. Through social media, you can be there. And through social media, you can bring the discussion from this little room worldwide. I have a lot of stories where I'm tweeting out, and then there's somebody from Europe or from Asia that responds to me on social media and saying, oh, we're doing that, or oh, this is just some research that's going on here, in a different part of the world. So just think of the power of this communication tool. And just to kind of, button things up as far as, my part is that, you've heard stories on this panel. That is the most powerful thing about social media, is to tell stories. Tell your own story. Tell your organization's story. That is how you're going to, get buy-in or get people to take interest in you or get people to fund you, is to tell those stories. So in closing, you can see, you can get all my information at drmikestola.com. I have some of my remarks from here that I put on the website. I do Twitter, I do Facebook, I do YouTube videos, and what I tell physicians is, you don't have to do everything that I'm doing, okay, because I'm crazy. But you at least have to be aware of what's going on out there, And physicians don't have to be out there creating content, okay? That definitely takes a lot of time. You have to be aware of this communication tool out there, because if physicians and providers, even organizations, if you ignore this communication tool, it's going to be at your peril.